Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well today. In this video, let me help you simplify down how to create area models when you're multiplying and dividing fractions. Let's start with a multiplication example. Suppose we have to multiply 3/4 by 1/2. To get started, take a look at the denominators. This 4 here will represent the number of rows we have, and this 2 will represent the number of columns, but if you switch these and make the 4 the number of columns and the 2 the number of rows, that's going to work just fine as well. Once we've established the number of rows and columns, let's create a square or a rectangle. So here's the square that I've drawn. Because this is a square, we can go ahead and say that this is going to be 1 unit across the bottom, or the length, and for the width we can also say that this is going to be 1 unit going up and down. Since we know there are going to be 4 rows, we're going to go ahead and draw 3 lines across to show that this is going to be 1/4, this is 1/4, this is 1/4, and finally this is the last fourth. Because the fraction we're dealing with is 3/4, let's go ahead and shade in 3 of these 4 rows. Here's 1/4, 2/4, and 3/4. Now that we're done dealing with the rows and we've shaded in 3/4 of the square, let's take a look at the columns now and create 2 of them since the denominator is 2. Drawing 1 line down the middle, we've now separated this square into half on the left and half on the right. While we have 2 columns, remember that the fraction we're dealing with is 1/2, so we need to shade in just 1/2 of these columns. So now that we've created 2 columns and shaded one of them, or 1/2 of them, notice what we see in front of us. While we have 8 of these smaller sized rectangles, 6 of them were shaded for the rows, 4 of them were shaded for a column. However, there were 3 of them that were shaded twice for the rows and the columns. Simply put, the number of rectangles that got shaded twice was 3, out of the total number of those size rectangles, which is 8, so we know that 3/4 times 1/2 is equal to 3/8. And of course, you can always just go ahead and check this by multiplying the numerators here to get 3 on top, and the denominators together to get 8 on bottom. While the act of multiplying fractions is pretty straightforward, the area model takes a little bit more work and a little deeper understanding of how fractions work. Using the same example of 3/4 times 1/2 is equal to 3/8, let me show you a different type of area model that also can represent this. Let's start by drawing a rectangle and imagine that this whole thing is going to represent one whole candy bar. Of this whole candy bar, you get to have 3/4 of it. To visualize this, we can go ahead and draw 3 vertical lines to show that we have 1/4, another 4th, a 3rd 4th, and a 4th 4th. Shading in 3 of the 4 pieces, this is the portion of the candy bar that you're given. However, of that 3/4 that you were given, you decide that you just want to eat half of it now and you're going to save half of it for later. An easy way to think about this is to take each of these 3 pieces that you were given and cut them in half. And while we're at it, we can cut this piece in half too to keep everything consistently the same size. So if you're going to eat half of each of those 3/4 you're given, there's half of 1/4, half of 2/4, and half of 3/4. Notice how there's a total of 8 of these small sized pieces, and while 6 of them were shaded once to show 6 out of 8 was 3/4, half of those 6, or 3 of them, were shaded twice. If this original candy bar was broken into 8 different pieces and you were given 3/4 of it, or 6/8, and then you ate half of those, that would represent 3/8 of the original candy bar. Now let's go ahead and take a look at a division area model. Consider this example where we have 2/3 divided by 4, and not only do we want to find the quotient or the answer to it, but we also want to show a visual representation of what it means. So just to show you what the answer would be without using an area model first, we can go ahead and rewrite this as 2/3 divided by 4/1, since 4 as a fraction is going to be 4/1. And try to remember that when we divide fractions, we actually like turning them into a multiplication problem. So we're going to keep this first one, we're going to change the second one, or we're going to flip the third one. Keep, change, flip, or Kentucky chicken fried, if however you want to try to remember that. So again, we do this, we keep this 2/3 the same in the front, we change division to multiplication, and then we flip or write the reciprocal of 4/1, which is going to be 1/4. At this point, you can just go ahead and multiply the tops and the bottoms together and then simplify, or we could also try to cross cancel along the way. So looking here, I notice on the top and the bottom, this 2 and 4 have a common factor of 2. So dividing them both by 2, we get 1 on top and 2 on bottom. If we don't have anything else we can multiply together, that means we can just multiply and get the most simplified version here. So multiplying this 1 on top by this 1 over here, we're going to notice that the numerator for this quotient is going to be 1, and then going ahead and multiplying this 3 on bottom by this 2 on bottom, we're going to have a denominator of 6. So we know 2/3 divided by 4 is equal to 1/6. Well, that's the correct answer. Let's now try to visualize and understand what this represents. Let's start by drawing a rectangle and imagine that this is just one big brownie sheet. If you're told that you're allowed to take 2/3 of this entire brownie sheet and share it with your friends, let's go ahead and show what that looks like. Drawing two vertical lines, we can see that we split this into 1/3, another third, and a third. Given that you're allowed to share 2/3 of this amongst your friends, let's go ahead and shade in 2 out of these 3 columns. So here's 1/3, and here's 2/3. This is the portion of the entire brownie sheet that you're allowed to share amongst your friends. And if you're going to divide this 2/3 by 4 or share it amongst 4 different people, we can draw one line across to divide this into 4 equal parts. Sharing the 2/3 of the brownie sheet that you were given amongst 4 different people, how much would each person get out of the entire original sheet? Well, there are 4 of these equivalent sized pieces. Keep in mind that there are 6 of them if you're considering the entire original brownie sheet. Each of the 4 people that are sharing the brownies get one of these 4 pieces, but that represents 1 out of 6 of the original brownie sheet. Another way to think about this is if you didn't want to cut it across, you can also draw vertical lines to show that you can divide the 2/3 into 4 equal pieces. Hopefully you can see here that there are 6 identical pieces going across, and if you were sharing the 2/3 that you were given with 4 people, each person would just get 1/6 of the original brownie sheet. You can see here that 1 out of the 6 pieces were shaded twice. And there you have an area model for a division of fractions problem. While in this video I just went over one example of multiplication and one of division, stay tuned for a future video where I'll do many more examples to help you practice this a bit more. As always, keep up the great work, and I'll see you in the next one.